The millionaire, Ricardo Morales, was breaking out in a cold sweat in his luxury office. He had just 30 minutes to close a monumental $500 million deal with a group of French investors. The problem? His translator, the best in Mexico City, had just been in a terrible accident. It seemed all was lost. But what a simple cleaning lady had to say would change everything. Her name was Ana Silvia, and her next words would alter the course of their lives forever. It was a frigid morning in Mexico City. On the 40th floor of a glittering skyscraper, the air itself seemed to vibrate with a looming sense of urgency. Ricardo Morales, a 52-year-old magnate with beads of cold sweat dotting his forehead, clutched the phone as if it were a life raft slipping from his grasp. In less than half an hour, a $500 million deal, the very pinnacle of his empire, the culmination of a dream 15 years in the making, was hanging by a thread, threatening to collapse into an abyss of financial and professional ruin. The catastrophe had arrived in the form of a single devastating piece of news. Pierre Dubois, his star translator, the only man capable of navigating the intricate waters of international negotiation with the required fluency in legal and cultural nuances, had suffered a terrible accident. He was, irreversibly and unexpectedly, out of commission. The blow was so severe, it felt like a death sentence for the Morales Corporation, dragging down not only the dream of international expansion, but also the futures of the hundreds of employees whose livelihoods depended on this deal. The deafening silence that followed Ricardo's call was a symphony of panic, a somber melody that echoed through the opulence of his office, where every luxury item seemed to mock his powerlessness. His hands trembled uncontrollably as he hung up the phone. A feeling of helplessness washed over him like an unforgiving tide, drowning the confidence that had carried him through decades of masterful business battles. He had built an empire from nothing, faced monumental economic crises, and endured soul-crushing betrayals that would have broken any other man. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for the sheer magnitude of the despair that now consumed him. It left him exposed and vulnerable at the very summit of his world, 40 floors above the bustling heart of Mexico City, the chaotic sprawl below offering no comfort from the impending debacle. His secretary, Carmen, her usually calm voice cracking with nervousness over the intercom, could barely stammer the confirmation. The French delegation would be arriving in 27 minutes. The time felt like a countdown to execution, each second a turn of the screw, pushing him closer to the precipice. Carmen burst into the office, her face ashen, carrying a stack of documents that, to Ricardo, looked like his company's death warrant. "Senor Morales," she whispered, desperation lacing every syllable. "I've called every French translator in the city, every single one. They're all booked with unbreakable commitments, or they simply can't make it in time. The best I could find is someone available at 4 this afternoon." She trailed off, knowing the hour was as useless as an umbrella in a desert. Ricardo stared at her, an intensity in his eyes that made her flinch. "Carmen, don't you understand?" His voice was a low growl, thick with restrained fury. "The French will be here in less than 20 minutes. This meeting, Carmen, this one single meeting, is worth $500 million. If we lose this contract, we will have no choice but to lay off half of our workforce. And believe me, I am not exaggerating. I have bet everything, every last cent, every resource, on this expansion with the Beaumont Group. It is my life's dream, the culmination of 15 years of work. Ricardo ran his hands through his hair, a gesture of pure desperation. He was fluent in English and Spanish, a master of both. But French was an impenetrable mystery, an indecipherable code that now stood between him and the survival of his empire. Google Translate? He asked, his voice a wisp of hope clinging to the last, most remote possibility. Carmen shook her head, her honesty a painful blow. Sir, they'll know in a second. Besides, we're talking about incredibly complex contracts, filled with technical jargon and subtle legal phrasing that only an expert can navigate. This isn't a restaurant conversation where a small mistake doesn't matter. One slip up here could cost you millions. It could seal the fate of this company forever. To his dismay, she was right. Just then, Ricardo's phone rang, the sound making him jump. It was Jean-Claude Beaumont, the French patriarch, his voice elegant and measured, flowing in a perfect French that Ricardo could barely decipher. Every word was a form of torture, every sentence an enigma that plunged him deeper into the abyss of his own ignorance. Très bien, merci, was all Ricardo managed to stammer, an automatic response, a silent prayer that he had said something remotely appropriate before hanging up. The seconds were slipping away like sand through his fingers. Carmen, they're arriving in 15 minutes, Ricardo shouted, his voice raw with a desperation he had never shown before. The primal cry echoed through the office, and stunned employees looked up, witnessing their implacable boss lose his composure for the very first time, his face a mask of panic. If we can't communicate with them, Ricardo continued, his voice now a hoarse whisper, they'll think we're amateurs. They will cancel the entire deal, and with it, everything we've ever built. The fate of $500 million was dissolving before his eyes, the image of half his company on the street casting an ominous shadow over his soul. Amid the rising tension, Anna Sylvia, a 43-year-old woman with her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, clad in the blue uniform of the cleaning service, pushed her cart down the hallway. Its familiar squeak, usually unnoticed, cut through the charged atmosphere. She had worked in the building for 2 years, an almost invisible presence, silent and efficient, accustomed to the stressful dynamics of the executives. But today, the tone of the voices from Senor Morales's office was different. It was an echo of a despair so palpable, so human, that it stopped her in her tracks. She had never heard Ricardo sound so vulnerable. The words French and Paris were repeated several times, resonating in her mind with an intensity that made her clutch the cleaning rag in her hands. France, Paris, a life she had left behind 4 years ago, an existence she fought to erase from her memory every single day. A latent pain now resurfaced with the force of a tidal wave, threatening to unearth secrets she preferred to keep buried. Ricardo's voice, strained to its limit, boomed down the hall. There is no one who speaks French in this entire company. That exclamation, more a declaration of defeat than a question, struck Anna's heart. She approached the open office door, her own heart pounding, torn between her instinct to remain invisible and an inexplicable force pulling her forward. The man's raw desperation touched a deep chord within her, perhaps reminding her of her own moments in the abyss. Excuse me, Anna said, her voice barely a whisper, as she knocked softly on the open door. The sound shattered the tense silence. Every head turned toward her. Carmen, in an automatic reflex of authority, snapped, "Anna, now is not the time for cleaning." Anna took a deep breath, an act of quiet courage, and stepped firmly into the center of the room, her gaze fixed on Ricardo. "I apologize for the interruption, but I heard you talking about French." Ricardo looked at her with undisguised impatience. "Anna, we are in the middle of an unprecedented crisis. The French are coming up in the elevator right now," he spat, the urgency dripping from his tone. "I know, sir. That's why I'm here," Anna replied, her voice calm and steady, a stark contrast to the chaos around her. She paused, knowing her next words would change everything. "I speak fluent French." The declaration hung in the air, resonating in a silence so profound it was almost tangible. Everyone held their breath, unable to process what they had just heard. Ricardo blinked, disbelieving. Carmen opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Eduardo and Fernanda exchanged looks of pure astonishment. "You... what?" Ricardo finally managed to stammer. "I speak fluent French, sir," Anna reiterated, her voice unwavering. "I lived in Paris for 12 years." Her past was now laid bare before them, a past that promised an unexpected salvation. Ricardo studied Anna as if seeing her for the first time. For 2 long years, she had been an immutable part of his office landscape, an efficient shadow who performed her duties without a trace. Now, suddenly, this quiet, unassuming woman stood before him, offering an improbable rescue from the most monumental crisis of his career. "Are you sure?" Ricardo asked, disbelief still coloring his words as his mind struggled to reconcile the image of the cleaner with that of a potential savior. "Absolutely, sir," Anna replied, her voice a mixture of humility and unshakable conviction. "I worked in Paris for many years. I know the culture, their customs, their unwritten rules. Can I help you?" Anna's heart hammered against her ribs. She was offering to return to a world she had sworn to leave forever, a universe of gloss and superficiality that had once wounded her deeply. Just then, from the hallway, came the unmistakable sound of voices speaking French. The investors had arrived. Ricardo looked at Anna, then at his team, and finally at the clock. Each tick was like a hammer blow. He had no other choice. It was either trust a cleaning lady he knew nothing about, or lose $500 million and shatter his life's work. "Carmen, take Anna to the executive washroom," Ricardo ordered, his voice charged with a new, desperate determination. "Get her suitable clothes, something formal. Quick, there's no time to waste." "Fernanda," he continued, turning to his marketing director, "prepare a folder with our key presentation materials." "Eduardo," he said to his CFO, "greet the French. Entertain them. Buy us time. Every second counts." Ricardo took a deep breath, releasing some of the tension, though uncertainty still weighed on him like a stone. "Anna," he said, his voice now softer, almost pleading, "I truly hope you know what you're doing. The future of my company, of so many lives, is in your hands." Anna nodded, though she was trembling inside. This wasn't just about translating words. It was about becoming who she once was, about touching deep wounds that had never fully healed, about confronting a past that had destroyed her and forced her to reinvent herself in the shadows. As Carmen practically dragged her away, Anna heard the elegant reception being given to the French investors, their voices polite and refined, exactly as she remembered from a life that was now abruptly and unexpectedly confronting her once more. For the first time in 4 long years, Anna was about to step back into the corporate world, not as the brilliant CEO of a multinational she had once been, but as an impromptu translator, an unexpected wild card whose performance could either save or utterly destroy Ricardo Morales' company. The fate of millions of dollars, the future of countless lives, now rested in the hands of a cleaning lady with a past no one could have suspected. A past that no one in that building, save for her, could possibly imagine. Anna knew with absolute certainty that after this meeting, nothing would ever be the same. Her forced invisibility was about to end, and perhaps, just perhaps, for the first time in 4 years, she no longer wanted to hide. She no longer wished to be a shadow, but a tangible presence, a force that could change destinies. Carmen dragged Anna down the hall with a palpable urgency, her breath coming in short gasps, and pulled her into the lavish executive washroom, a sanctuary of polished marble and gleaming mirrors that Anna, in her 2 years as a cleaner, had never set foot in. It was a world of opulence that contrasted violently with her uniform and her current life, a clash of realities that made her feel even more exposed. Anna, are you absolutely sure you can do this? That you really speak French? Carmen asked, her voice a mixture of desperate hope and thinly veiled terror. If this goes wrong, if this improvisation fails for any reason, Mr. Morales will fire us. Both of us. On the spot. Our careers will be gone in an instant. Anna looked at her reflection in the mirror, her eyes meeting her own. She saw the face of a 43-year-old woman, marked by exhaustion, etched with lines that time and hardship had carved into her skin. Lines that hadn't existed just 4 years ago, when her life was entirely different. The cleaning uniform, once a cloak of invisibility, now seemed to magnify her weariness, making her look exactly like what she had strived to become: invisible, disposable. I'm sure, Carmen, Anna replied, her voice firm, a declaration that carried the weight of an extraordinary past. I worked for a French multinational for 8 years. I was the director of operations. The words escaped her lips before she could regret them, a long silenced truth erupting with a force that revealed the magnitude of her story. Carmen froze, her eyes wide, her mouth slightly agape in astonishment as the information slowly processed in her mind. You, you were, she stammered, the question hanging in the air. It's a long story, Carmen. Right now, we need to focus on the meeting, Anna cut in, deliberately avoiding the intimate, painful details of her past, deflecting with a skill forged in countless boardrooms. Still in shock, Carmen produced an elegant navy blue blazer, a pristine white blouse, and a formal skirt, the attire of a high-level executive. Put this on, quickly, Carmen urged, her voice regaining its haste. They must be in the conference room waiting. Every second counts. Anna changed, her movements clumsy at first. It had been 4 years since she had worn formal attire, participated in a corporate meeting of this magnitude, or spoken professional French. It was like trying to ride a bicycle after a serious accident, a rusty skill fighting to resurface, a muscle memory struggling to activate. Anna, I need the whole truth, Carmen insisted, her nervousness palpable. Do you really understand business? They're going to talk about contracts, investments, technical terms I can't even pronounce. Anna adjusted the blazer, the soft fabric molding to her figure, and looked in the mirror. The transformation was stunning, almost miraculous. Suddenly, the invisible cleaner was gone, replaced by an impeccable executive, a businesswoman with an undeniable presence. Carmen, for 8 years, I closed deals worth tens of millions of euros, Anna stated, her voice resonating with a newfound confidence. I negotiated with the largest corporate groups in France. Their names are synonymous with power and success. I know exactly what I'm doing. She took a deep breath, feeling something inside her, something that had been dormant for far too long, begin to stir. A spark of her old ambition, her professional competence. But I need 5 minutes alone before the meeting, Carmen, Anna added, her voice softer now, but with an unshakable firmness. To prepare myself mentally, to reconnect with the part of me I need to be right now. We don't have 5 minutes, Carmen exclaimed, exasperation lacing her tone. The French are waiting, and Ricardo is having a panic attack. The pressure is unbearable. Carmen, if you want me to do this right, if you want me to save this company from the biggest embarrassment in its history, I need those 5 minutes. Trust me. Please. Carmen hesitated, seeing something different in Anna's eyes, a resolve she hadn't seen before, an authority that went beyond words. 5 minutes. No more, she said, and rushed out, leaving Anna alone in the opulent washroom, ready for her final metamorphosis. Anna sat on the plush leather armchair and closed her eyes, delving into the silence for an introspective journey. She needed to travel back in time, to an era when her life was diametrically opposed to this one, a glorious past that now felt like a distant dream. She needed to find Anna Cristina Dumont, the woman who lived in an elegant apartment in Polanco, Mexico City's exclusive neighborhood, where luxury and success were a way of life. That Anna Cristina, who spoke French as naturally as her native tongue, who negotiated with Europe's most powerful business groups with an ease that astonished everyone, as if the complex world of international business were her natural habitat. She vividly recalled the meetings at the Beaumont and Associates headquarters in Paris, a place she knew intimately, its hallways, its boardrooms, every corner steeped in her former life. She knew the Beaumont family well. She knew they were conservative, steeped in tradition, valuing protocol and elegance above all else. Every gesture, every word was crucial. Jean-Claude, the patriarch, was particularly strict about business etiquette. Any slip-up, any faux pas, no matter how minor, would mean the irrecoverable loss of the deal, the failure of the agreement. Anna opened her eyes. The decision was made, her gaze now clear and determined. It was time to become who she truly was again. The brilliant executive that life had tried to erase, but who was still very much alive inside her. Outside the office, Ricardo paced nervously, cold sweat soaking his shirt, anxiety devouring him. Eduardo, the CFO, was desperately trying to entertain the French delegation with cups of coffee and stilted conversation, struggling to buy precious time. Ricardo, are you sure about this? Fernanda whispered to Carmen, disbelief coloring her words. Betting everything, absolutely everything, on a cleaner. It's insane. The risk is too high. Carmen approached Ricardo, her expression a mix of awe and anxiety, the revelation she had just witnessed still fresh in her mind. Ricardo, I need to tell you something. Something that will shock you, Carmen began, her voice barely a whisper. Anna said she was the director of operations for a French multinational for 8 years. Ricardo stopped dead in his tracks, the information hitting him like a blast of icy wind. What? How was that possible? He stammered, his mind struggling to process the revelation. She said she closed deals worth tens of millions of euros, Carmen continued, the wonder still in her voice. Ricardo, maybe she really knows what she's doing. Maybe she's more than just a cleaner. Maybe she's much more than we can imagine. Before Ricardo could fully process the shocking information, Anna appeared in the hallway, her presence radiating a transformation so dramatic that, for a moment, no one recognized her. The cleaner was gone. The blazer fit her impeccably, every detail of her attire conveying an undeniable professionalism. Her posture was erect, confident, her shoulders back, her chin held high. She walked not with the apologetic deference of someone asking permission to exist, but with the authority of someone who knows exactly where she is going, with a clear purpose and unwavering resolve. Mr. Morales, Anna said, her voice resonating with an authority that didn't fit the image they had of her. A different voice, firmer, more professional, charged with an innate command that startled everyone. I'm ready, she announced. Her words were an echo of the woman she had once been, the executive who was about to rise from the ashes of her past. Ricardo studied her with a new gaze, an attentive observation that went beyond the surface, sensing a presence in her he had completely missed before, an intangible quality that now manifested with undeniable force. There was something in her bearing, a natural confidence, an innate elegance that wasn't learned in some business seminar, but that emanated from a deep-seated self-assurance, from experience forged in corporate battles. Anna, before we go in there, Ricardo said, his voice grave, his eyes locked on hers. I need to know something fundamental. Can you really do this? This meeting, Anna, is worth the future of my entire company, the lives of so many families. If it goes wrong, if we fail, his voice trailed off, the weight of the situation crushing him. Anna looked him directly in the eye without blinking, her gaze a testament to her unshakable resolve. Mr. Morales, she began, her voice steady and professional. For 8 years, I represented one of the largest French companies in the world throughout all of Latin America. Her words, clear and concise, echoed in the office, stunning Ricardo and his team. I forged alliances that changed entire markets, redefined industries. I know exactly how to deal with French investors, their expectations, their protocols, their unwritten codes. Ricardo's jaw dropped. The astonishment on his face was palpable, disbelief warring with the reality before him. Which company? He asked, curiosity and awe mixing in his voice. Michelin, Anna replied, the name hanging in the silence. As the regional director for Latin America, I reported directly to the board in Clermont-Ferrand. She paused, a subtle satisfaction in her eyes as she watched the shock register on everyone's faces. But that's in the past, sir. Today, I'm here to help you save this company, she added, bringing the focus back to the present, to the task at hand. How does a former director of Michelin become a cleaner? Fernanda whispered to Carmen, her disbelief evident. It makes no sense. It's absurd. Anna heard them, but didn't respond. This wasn't the time for detailed explanations, for unearthing the painful truths of her past. There would be time for that later, if ever. We can go in now, Anna said, her voice indicating that the time for waiting was over. Traditional French businessmen, like the Beaumonts, do not like to be kept waiting. They value punctuality and efficiency. Ricardo nodded, still processing the staggering revelation, his mind struggling to reconcile Anna's new identity. As they walked toward the conference room, Anna could feel the curious stares of Ricardo's team fixed on her, trying to solve the mystery she represented. She knew that after this meeting, everything would change forever, that there would be no going back to the invisibility she had tried to escape. When they opened the door, Anna saw three elegantly dressed men immersed in a French conversation, their refined voices filling the room. Jean-Claude Beaumont, now in his 70s, his hair completely white, maintained the same aristocratic posture she remembered vividly from her years in Paris. Philippe Beaumont, in his 40s, looked impatient, his eyes darting nervously to his watch, a sign of his urgency. A third man, whom Anna didn't immediately recognize, completed the group. My sincerest apologies for the delay, Anna said in perfect French, her accent so natural she could have been born in Paris. Her words flowed with an astonishing ease that surprised everyone present. The three Frenchmen turned in unison, their surprise evident. Jean-Claude raised his eyebrows, impressed by Anna's flawless fluency. Philippe stopped glancing at his watch. The third man studied her with renewed interest, a spark of curiosity in his eyes, instantly recognizing the authenticity of her accent and the fluidity of her speech. It was like a switch had been flipped. The cleaner had vanished, and in her place, a brilliant executive had reemerged. She was no longer speaking like a cleaner who knew a few words of French. She was speaking like someone who had lived, worked, and breathed the culture for years, someone who understood it to its very core. Ricardo, standing beside her, felt completely lost in the sophisticated conversation flowing between her and the Frenchman. Every word was an indecipherable mystery to him, but he couldn't help but be profoundly impressed by the natural ease with which Anna commanded the room. It was as if she had been reborn before his very eyes. A stunning metamorphosis that left him speechless. The cleaner was gone, and a world-class negotiator had taken her place. Jean-Claude approached Anna and shook her hand with the genuine respect reserved for an equal, for someone whose true value and experience he recognized. It was a gesture that validated Anna's presence in the room. The conversation flowed in French for several more minutes, and Ricardo realized, with a mixture of astonishment and admiration, that Anna was not merely performing a simple, basic translation of words. She was conducting a sophisticated social conversation, establishing a connection, building a rapport with the French investors. She was doing exactly what a seasoned international negotiator would do in a situation like this, demonstrating her mastery not only of the language, but of the business culture itself. What are they talking about? Ricardo whispered to Anna, feeling like an outsider at his own meeting, a mere spectator in the social drama unfolding before him. He's complimenting the view of the city, the office, asking about my background. It's standard protocol. They're vetting me to decide if you are serious enough to do business with. Anna replied in a low voice, never losing her professional smile, her eyes fixed on the Frenchman. Philippe, the younger of the Beaumonts, said something in French, his impatience evident in his tone. Monsieur Philippe wishes to get straight to the meeting. He has commitments in Paris early tomorrow, Anna translated, maintaining her composure. Ricardo straightened up, the gravity of the situation returning to him. Perfect. Let's begin. Then Anna strategically positioned herself between Ricardo and the Frenchman, assuming her role with a startling naturalness. For the first time in 4 years, she felt completely at home, back in her natural element, her original habitat. It wasn't just about the language. It was about understanding cultures, facilitating complex deals, building solid bridges between different worlds, being the keystone that connected two distinct realities. Ricardo began his presentation in English, pausing after each sentence for Anna to translate. But he quickly realized she wasn't just translating word for word. She was no simple repeater of phrases. She was enhancing, refining each concept, making everything more elegant and persuasive, as if she were translating not just the language, but the intent and emotion behind the words, a true master of communication. When Ricardo mentioned the company's revenue numbers, Anna didn't just translate the figures. She contextualized the information, explaining the Mexican market with masterful skill, comparing the figures to French companies they knew, making the data relevant and easily digestible for the investors. When he spoke of expansion plans, she added crucial details about local regulations that demonstrated a profound and meticulous knowledge of the business environment, a sign of her true expertise. Jean-Claude, the patriarch, asked a complex question about Mexican taxes. To Ricardo's astonishment, Anna didn't just translate the question for him. She answered directly, with a technical understanding that left the Frenchman visibly impressed, acknowledging the depth of her knowledge. You're not just translating, Anna, Ricardo whispered during a brief pause, while the Frenchmen conversed among themselves, oblivious to his comment. You're selling the company, and you're doing it better than I ever could, with a skill that leaves me breathless. Anna smiled, her face illuminated by a confidence no one on the Mexican team had ever witnessed before, a self-assurance that emanated from deep within her. This is how you do business with the French, Senor Morales, she replied calmly, her voice a lesson in strategy itself. They need to feel that you completely understand their world, their way of doing business, their expectations. Literal translation is not enough. It's about a deeper connection, about building trust. The meeting continued, and Ricardo realized he was witnessing something truly extraordinary, a display of professional mastery that left him in awe. Anna was not just a competent translator, not some ex-executive in disguise. She was an innate negotiator, a perfect cultural bridge, a woman who understood both the Mexican and French sides of business better than any consultant he had ever hired. And the Frenchmen, known for their demanding nature and sharp acumen, were clearly impressed. Philippe stopped looking at his watch, his impatience completely replaced by a genuine interest. Jean-Claude was taking notes with an evident enthusiasm, each stroke of his pen a testament to his admiration. The third man, the one Anna hadn't recognized at first, whispered positive comments, which Anna translated with strategic modesty, deflecting the praise toward the team. When they took their first break, Jean-Claude approached Anna and said something in French that made her blush slightly, a faint flush, but one that did not go unnoticed by Ricardo. "What did he say?" Ricardo asked, curiosity gnawing at him. Anna hesitated for a moment, weighing her words. "He said he rarely finds consultants with such business sophistication outside of Paris, and he wants to know where I discovered you," she translated, a note of modesty in her voice. Ricardo looked at Anna with an entirely new expression, a mixture of awe and profound understanding. For 2 years, she had been practically invisible to him, a shadow in the halls of his company. Now, in a single morning, she had transformed before his very eyes into the most valuable person in his firm, the key to a $500 million deal, the savior of his future. "Anna," Ricardo said, his voice heavy with a newfound seriousness. "When this meeting is over, we are going to have a very long conversation about who you really are." Anna nodded, her gaze meeting his, knowing there was no longer any way to hide the past. The invisible cleaner was gone forever. Anna Christina Dumont, the brilliant executive, was back in the world that had once been hers. Returning to the meeting room, a fundamental shift in the dynamic was palpable. The Frenchman no longer saw Anna as a mere translator. There was a respect in their eyes, a genuine admiration Ricardo had never seen directed at any of his employees, not even his top executives. Jean-Claude, with a gesture of deference, even pulled a chair for her to sit at the table as an equal instead of standing behind Ricardo, a symbolic act that elevated her to her true status. "Senor Morales," Jean-Claude said in slow but clear English, his gaze fixed on Anna. "Your consultant is very, how you say, impressive." Anna automatically translated for Ricardo with flawless professionalism. "Senor Jean-Claude says that I am impressive, sir, but I believe he is referring to the company's presentation as a whole." She added the last part with a strategic pause, subtly deflecting the praise, a masterful display of diplomatic cunning. Ricardo noted the subtlety, a move that further proved her deep experience in high-level negotiations. Philippe opened a folder, his movements quick and decisive, and began speaking rapidly in French, a torrent of legal and financial jargon. Ricardo waited for the translation, but was stunned yet again when Anna replied directly in French, with the same fluency and precision, asking specific questions and taking detailed notes. "Anna, what's happening?" Ricardo whispered, his frustration and sense of exclusion growing. "Keep me in the loop. I need to understand." "My apologies, sir," Anna replied, her voice calm. "Philippe is presenting their proposed investment structure for the alliance. It's quite complex." She paused, organizing the information in her head. "It involves holding companies in 3 different countries for tax optimization. But there are several problematic points. The structure they're proposing could create serious legal complications here in Mexico, especially with our tax laws. It's a considerable risk." Ricardo blinked, the complexity of her explanation beyond his grasp. "How do you know that, Anna?" "Because I structured similar investments when I worked in France," she answered, her voice carrying an undeniable authority. This specific setup ran into trouble with the SAT in 2018. I know at least 3 companies that had enormous headaches with the authorities for using this exact structure. She turned to Philippe and said something in French that made him stop cold, his face a mask of surprise as he urgently consulted his papers. He responded with what was clearly a worried question. Anna nodded and continued explaining in French with a clarity that impressed Ricardo even further. He watched as Philippe's interest intensified, the younger man now scribbling frantic notes, absorbing Anna's every word. Anna, for God's sake, tell me what's happening, Ricardo whispered, desperation edging his voice. I'm the one closing this deal, and I feel like a bystander. Anna turned to him, her expression apologetic but firm. Senor Morales, I identified 3 serious problems in their proposed structure. If we sign as is, you could face severe issues with both Mexican and European tax authorities. Fines that could run into the millions. She showed him her papers, covered in her own corrections. I suggested some modifications that protect both our interests and are fully legal in both jurisdictions. Jean-Claude said something in French that made Philippe smile, clearly impressed. What was that? Ricardo asked, feeling completely lost. Senor Jean-Claude said he rarely finds Mexican consultants with such a deep knowledge of European regulations and that he is impressed with your team's level of preparation. Anna hesitated. He also suggested that you include me permanently on the team that will manage this alliance. Ricardo felt as if he'd been punched in the gut. In just 3 hours, his cleaner had transformed, before his and the investor's eyes, into the international consultant he never knew he needed. Senor Morales, Anna continued in a low voice, may I suggest a strategic pause? I need to explain the technical implications of their proposal before we continue. There are important decisions to be made, and you must be fully informed. Ricardo nodded, still trying to process how an employee he paid minimum wage understood more about international business than his own executives with their MBAs. Gentlemen, Anna said to the Frenchman with impeccable elegance, could we take a short break for an internal consultation? They graciously agreed and left the room. The moment they were gone, Ricardo all but dragged Anna into his office, slamming the door behind them. Carmen, Eduardo, and Fernanda followed, their faces a mixture of extreme curiosity and palpable shock. Anna, who the hell are you? Ricardo exploded as soon as the door was shut. Anna sat in the chair opposite his desk, her posture still erect and professional. But for the first time, Ricardo saw a genuine vulnerability in her eyes, a flicker of pain, as if she were about to open a wound that had never truly healed. My full name is Anna Christina Dumont, she began, her voice soft but firm. For 12 years, I lived in France. I built a career there. She took a deep breath. For 8 of those years, I worked for Michelin as the director of operations for all of Latin America. Before that, I earned an MBA from HEC Paris and worked for 2 other French multinationals. The silence in the room was absolute, thick with unspoken questions. Carmen had stopped breathing. Eduardo's mouth was agape. Fernanda clutched her papers as if they were an anchor in a world that had just been turned upside down. How did you go from being a director at Michelin to a cleaner here, Anna? Ricardo asked, his voice softer now, tinged with a dawning realization that there was a painful story behind her transformation. Impossible, Carmen murmured, still in disbelief. Anna looked looked down at her own hands, and for the first time, Ricardo saw tears welling in her eyes. Tears of a past that still haunted her. 4 years ago, Anna said, her voice cracking slightly, but with a resolve that pushed her forward. My husband, Francois, was arrested in France for tax evasion and money laundering. He was a partner in a bank, a consulting firm that had been siphoning client funds for years, a deception I knew nothing about. She paused, the pain etched on her face, each word a visible effort. I knew absolutely nothing about his illegal activities. I was completely focused on my own work, dedicated to my career at Michelin. But because I was married to him, and we had a joint bank account, I was also investigated by the French authorities, dragged into the scandal through no fault of my own. My God, Carmen whispered, moved by the injustice. I was never formally charged because they were able to prove my complete innocence. The investigation showed I had no knowledge of or involvement in Francoise's crimes, but the scandal destroyed my reputation overnight. The French press, they are relentless, sensationalist. They don't forgive. My name became synonymous with suspicion, with fraud, even though I was innocent. No French company would hire me after that. My career in Europe was over. Anna wiped away a single tear that slid down her cheek. We lost everything, Ricardo. Our house, our cars, all our investments, our friends, everything we had built just crumbled. Francois is still in prison today. Ricardo sat down heavily in his chair, the weight of Anna's story pressing down on him. And why didn't you look for a job in your field here in Mexico? He asked, his voice soft, showing an empathy he hadn't revealed before. I tried for months, Ricardo. I sent my resume to every multinational, every company I thought might value my experience. I offered my services as a consultant. I tried to explain my situation, my innocence. Anna took a deep breath, composing herself with her usual professionalism, a mask hiding her pain. But when companies searched my name online, they found all the news about Francois' scandal, all the newspaper headlines that linked me to tax fraud, even though I was proven innocent. No one wanted to take the risk of hiring someone associated with a scandal of that magnitude. It was a stain I couldn't wash away. Eduardo shook his head, moved by the flagrant injustice Anna had suffered. Anna, that's absurd. It's completely irrational. You're visibly competent. Your experience is undeniable, he said, indignant. Life, Eduardo, doesn't care about competence. When you need to eat and pay the rent at the end of the month, pride is a luxury you can't afford, not when your son's survival is at stake. Anna straightened up, her composure regained, her voice now firm with an unbreakable dignity. Gabriel, my son, was 15 when we came back to Mexico. He needed stability, a place to live, food on the table. The cleaning job was the fastest thing I could get, the most immediate solution, and the company offered health insurance, which was essential for us. So I took it, without hesitation. Fernanda approached Anna, her face showing genuine concern, a professional's curiosity. Anna, what exactly is wrong with the French investment proposal? You mentioned serious problems, significant risks, she asked, eager to understand the technical complexity Anna had detected. Anna took the papers from the meeting, her hands moving with the familiarity of someone who handles complex documents daily. She instantly slipped back into professional mode, her mind focused on the analysis. They are proposing an investment structure that works perfectly within French law, a strategy that is legal in their home country, Anna began, her voice clear and didactic. But here in Mexico, that same structure can be interpreted as an aggressive tax strategy by the Tax Administration Service. It's a matter of interpretation and legal focus. She pointed to specific items in the documents, her finger tracing the problematic clauses, demonstrating her sharp insight. If the tax authorities decide to audit this investment, you could face fines of up to 300% of the invested value, in addition to criminal proceedings for tax evasion. It's a gigantic risk, Ricardo, one that could ruin the alliance and your company's reputation. Ricardo leaned forward, finally grasping the gravity of the situation, the imminent danger Anna had identified. And you know how to fix this without losing the investment, Anna? Ricardo asked, a sliver of hope in his voice. I know exactly how to fix it, Anna replied with unshakable confidence, an assertion that reassured Ricardo. I need to modify 3 specific clauses in the contracts and include 2 legal safeguards that make everything transparent and compliant with the law. Anna showed them her notes, a collection of calculations and legal references. This makes the investment, completely legal and auditable in both countries, without reducing the legitimate tax benefits the French are looking for. In fact, it can even increase legal security for both parties, shielding the investment from future legal problems. Carmen looked at the papers over Ricardo's shoulder, her eyes wide with astonishment. How can you be so sure this will work, Anna? She asked, disbelief still coloring her tone. Because I structured practically identical investments for Renault when they expanded their operations in Mexico and Argentina, Anna answered, the memory of her professional past surfacing naturally. It's the same fiscal logic, adapted for different national regulations, but the essence is the same. Anna paused, displaying a confidence that came from years of experience and profound knowledge. And I still maintain informal contact with some former colleagues who work at the top international tax consulting firms. I know exactly which structures are being questioned by national tax agencies and which are considered safe laws. Ricardo studied her, his gaze a mixture of astonishment and admiration. Anna, you're not just a disgraced ex-executive. You are an international specialist in European investments in the Latin American market. One of the best I've seen in my entire career. Your knowledge is exceptional. Ricardo, Anna corrected, her voice soft. That was 4 years ago. A lifetime in the corporate world. Things change fast. But there was a spark in her eyes, a glimmer of life and ambition that hadn't been there for years. A light that signaled her professional spirit was coming back to life. No, Anna, Ricardo insisted. Knowledge like yours doesn't just disappear. You just proved it by saving a $500 million deal that I was about to sign, a deal that could have completely destroyed me. You saved me from an imminent disaster. Ricardo stood up, making a decision that would change everything. When we go back into that room, I want you to negotiate directly with me, Anna, not as a translator, but as a senior consultant for my company. I want you to be my right hand in this negotiation. Anna hesitated for a moment, the old fear surfacing, a ghost from her past that refused to fade. Ricardo, I can't, she whispered, the vulnerability raw in her voice. I'm officially your cleaning lady. If the French find out the truth, if they realize my real situation, the negotiation could fall apart. My reputation could be ruined even further, and so could yours. Anna, Ricardo interrupted her with a calm that surprised her. The French have already realized you're no ordinary translator. Jean-Claude has 40 years of experience in international business. He knows world-class competence when he sees it, regardless of the title on a business card. Ricardo walked to the window, his gaze lost in the chaos of the city sprawling below. And honestly, Anna, after what I've witnessed today, I firmly believe you understand more about this specific deal than I do. You are the expert I need. A soft knock on the door interrupted them, pulling them back to reality. It was the receptionist. Mr. Aguilar, the French are asking if you can continue. They said they have some specific technical questions they'd like to discuss with the Mexican consultant. Ricardo and Ana exchanged a meaningful look. A silent connection forged between them. They called you a consultant, Ana, not a translator, Ricardo observed, the implication hanging in the air, a validation of her new professional identity. Because you introduced me as a translator, sir, but I acted as an international consultant, Ana replied, the truth ringing in her voice. For traditional Frenchmen like the Beaumonts, technical competence and knowledge speak louder than formal titles on an organizational chart. They recognized expertise when they saw it, regardless of my initial appearance. Then let's give them exactly what they want, Ricardo said, his decision final and unwavering. Ana, you will finish this meeting as the international consultant you truly are, with all your skill and experience. You will close this deal with me as a partner, not an employee. I want you to be my equal, my partner on this journey. Ana looked at him with a mixture of hope and terror. The hope of once again becoming the woman she was born to be, of reclaiming her life and purpose. The terror that it could all crumble again, that history would repeat itself, that this happiness would be fleeting. Ricardo, after today, there's no going back. You understand that, right? She asked, her voice tinged with a seriousness that reflected the magnitude of the decision. Ricardo smiled for the first time since the crisis began, a genuine, liberating smile. Ana, after what you did today, I don't want there to be any going back. I want you to be exactly who you always were, the best international negotiator I have ever met in my entire life. When they returned to the meeting room, Ana no longer tried to hide. Her invisibility had vanished. She sat at the table as an equal, opened her own folder of documents with innate confidence, and began to negotiate the largest contract in the history of Ricardo's company. With the same elegance and competence that had once made her a legend in French multinationals. And for the first time in 4 years, Ana Cristina Dumont was once again exactly who she was born to be. A brilliant executive, closing deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars with the ease of someone who should never have stopped, with the mastery of someone who was born to lead. 3 hours later, when the Frenchmen finally rose from the table, their faces reflecting palpable satisfaction, Ricardo knew with unshakable certainty that he had witnessed something truly historic. Not only had they closed the original $500 million contract, but Ana, with her strategic brilliance, had managed to structure a much broader alliance, a long-term vision that would include 2 additional projects over the next 18 months. The total value of the agreement now stood at $800 million, a figure that far exceeded his most optimistic expectations. Jean-Claude approached Ana and shook her hand with the kind of respect the French reserve for someone who has truly impressed them. Madame Dumont, it was a pleasure to work with someone of your caliber. We rarely encounter such a combination of exceptional technical knowledge and impeccable business elegance. Philippe added, in slow but sincere English, you transformed a good investment into an exceptional opportunity. Our team in Paris, I assure you, will be very impressed. The third man, whom Anna learned was the CFO of the Beaumont Group, handed her his personal card. Madam, should you ever consider returning to the European market, we would be absolutely delighted to speak with you about opportunities. After the French delegation left, promising to return the following week with the final documentation, Ricardo and Anna remained alone in the conference room. The silence was charged with accomplishment and the irreversible change that had just occurred. Anna, Ricardo said finally, loosening his tie for the first time all day. In just 3 hours, you closed the biggest deal in my company's history. An agreement that redefines our future. He paused, searching for the right words. You didn't just save a contract that could have ruined me, but you transformed it into something far greater than I ever dreamed of. He looked at her, a mix of admiration and a hint of guilt in his eyes. And you did it using knowledge and expertise I never even knew existed, right under my nose, for 2 long years. Anna stored the documents in her folder, avoiding Ricardo's gaze as she processed the magnitude of what had just happened. The adrenaline of the negotiation was fading, and the reality of her newfound status was settling in. She was no longer the invisible cleaner. There was no going back. I did what needed to be done, Ricardo. Nothing more. Stop calling me Mr. Morales, Anna. After today, I think we can be Ricardo and Anna. Equals, partners, friends. He sat down heavily. Anna, I need to ask you a direct question, and I want a completely honest answer. Anna finally met his eyes, bracing herself. Why did you never tell me who you really were, Anna? Ricardo asked, his voice laden with a mixture of incomprehension and hurt. Why did you agree to work as a cleaner when you were clearly one of the most brilliant business minds I have ever met? A natural strategist? An exceptional negotiator? Anna sighed, a deep breath that seemed to release the weight of years of secrets. Ricardo, she said, her voice quiet but firm. When you are desperate, when you need to put food on your son's table and pay the rent at the end of the month, pride is a luxury you simply cannot afford. Survival becomes the only priority, and dignity, a luxury you can no longer afford. She paused, her gaze lost out the window, observing the vast, vibrant city that had taken her in when she had absolutely nothing. A refugee from her own past. And honestly, Anna continued, her voice heavy with a heart-wrenching sincerity, after losing everything in France, after seeing my name tied to scandal and fraud in every newspaper, after becoming the laughingstock of the press, I had no confidence left in my own professional abilities. She shrugged, a gesture of weary resignation. I started to believe that maybe I wasn't as good as I thought, that my previous success had been a fluke, a coincidence. The humiliation made me doubt my own worth. And today, Anna? Ricardo asked, his voice soft, laced with a thread of hope. How do you feel now, after impressing some of the most sophisticated investors in Europe? After proving your brilliance to the world? A genuine, luminous smile spread across Anna's face, filled with an emotion she hadn't felt in years, a joy that had been buried beneath the weight of her past. Today, Ricardo, for the first time in 4 years, I felt like myself again, as if I've woken up from a long, dark nightmare, from a lethargy that had consumed me. I was Anna Christina Dumont again. Ricardo stood and walked to the window, his eyes fixed on the horizon, on the future that was opening up before them. Anna, I have a proposal for you. In fact, I have several, and I want you to consider them seriously. Anna waited in silence, her heart hammering against her ribs, the air thick with anticipation and hope, eager to hear what he had to offer. First option, Ricardo began, turning to face her, his gaze firm and resolute. You accept one of the offers that will surely come from the French. They'll want you on their team. You become a renowned independent international consultant. You make a great deal of money, and you completely rebuild your career in the European market, reclaiming your status and prestige. Second option, he continued, his voice taking on an even greater seriousness. You become my partner in Aguilar Holdings. We lead this international expansion and all the ones that follow together. You won't be an employee. You'll be my equal, my partner on this journey. Together, we will take this company to new heights. Anna blinked, incredulous, certain she had misheard. The sheer magnitude of the proposal left her breathless. A partner? She stammered, her voice barely a whisper, struggling to process his words. Anna, after what I witnessed today, I am absolutely certain that you know international markets infinitely better than I do. Your experience is unparalleled. You have invaluable contacts, priceless expertise, a credibility that precedes you, and clearly, an innate talent for transforming a regional Mexican company into an international player, a global powerhouse. You are the piece I've been missing. Ricardo approached the desk, his eyes locked on hers, the gravity of his proposal undeniable. I am offering you a 25% partnership in the company, Anna, plus a special share in the profits from all international contracts you bring in. It's a fair offer, based on your undeniable value. Anna's jaw fell slack. Astonishment etched onto her face. For 4 long years, she had cleaned offices, lived in the shadows, and dreamed of a second chance, no matter how small. Now, she was being offered a partnership in a company that had just closed the biggest deal in its history, a dream that surpassed her wildest expectations. Ricardo, this is, I can't accept something like this, she said, her voice still faint. It's too generous, disproportionate. You barely know me. You don't know my whole past. Anna, Ricardo interrupted, his voice firm. Today you saved my company from a contract that could have resulted in criminal proceedings, in millions in fines and total ruin. You protected me from a legal and financial disaster. He paused, a genuine smile touching his lips. Then, you transformed a $500 million deal into an $800 million strategic alliance. If that doesn't merit a partnership, Anna, if that isn't reason enough to consider you my partner, then I don't know what is. He smiled, his gaze full of conviction. Besides, I have a strong feeling that with you as a partner, that 800 million from the French is just the beginning of something much, much bigger. The beginning of a global empire we will build together. Anna rose and walked to the window, her gaze lost in the vastness of the city where she had started her life from scratch 4 years earlier. A city that had welcomed her as a refugee, asking nothing in return, and was now offering her a second chance she never imagined possible. For a few minutes, she stood in silence, processing the weight of the proposal. Partnership, meant financial security for her and her son, Gabriel. It meant professional recognition, the vindication of her talent. It meant she could finally use her knowledge without hiding, without fear of judgment. Ricardo, may I make a counter proposal? She asked, turning to him, a renewed determination in her eyes that he was learning to admire. Of course, Anna, he replied, intrigued. I accept the partnership, she said, her voice firm, making it clear there would be no room for negotiation on these points, but with three non-negotiable conditions. First, I want the salaries of all cleaning and general services employees in this company to be reviewed and increased by at least 30%. If I can go from cleaner to partner, others deserve opportunities and recognition. It's a matter of justice and dignity. Ricardo nodded immediately, impressed by her social conscience. Agreed, Anna, completely. It's an excellent initiative, and I'll implement it without hesitation. And the second condition, she continued, her eyes fixed on his. I want to establish a robust scholarship program for the children of our employees. Education, Ricardo, changes lives. It's the engine of progress, and I want our company to be an active part of that transformation. She paused, thinking of her own son. Gabriel earned a scholarship to study at the university, but I know how many families here struggle to provide a quality education for their children. I want us to be a beacon of hope for them. Perfect, Anna. We will create the Anna Dumont Scholarship Program. It will be an honor for it to bear your name. And the third condition, Anna smiled mischievously, a flicker of her true personality shining through. I want 1 week to personally train my replacement on the cleaning crew. I can't leave a job half done, Ricardo. Responsibility and commitment are values I've always held. Ricardo laughed, a genuine sound of both amusement and deep respect. Anna, you just closed the largest deal in this company's history, and you're worried about training a cleaner? You truly are one of a kind. Ricardo, she replied, her voice serious and sincere. One thing I learned in the hardest of times is that all honest work has dignity, no matter how humble, and every transition must be handled with responsibility and respect, for the past as well as the future. She extended her hand, her eyes locking with his. So, do we have a deal, Ricardo? He shook her hand firmly, feeling he was sealing not just a business alliance, but the beginning of a genuine friendship that would change both their lives forever. We have a deal, Anna. Welcome back to the world where you've always belonged. Outside the conference room, Carmen, Eduardo, and Fernanda waited anxiously. When Ricardo and Anna emerged, both smiling triumphantly, they knew something extraordinary had happened. Everyone, Ricardo announced to the assembled team, his voice clear and resonant. I would like to officially introduce you to Anna Cristina Dumont, our new partner and director of international business for Aguilar Holdings. An initial silence was broken by Carmen, who, with tears in her eyes, began to applaud. Within seconds, the entire office erupted in a deafening ovation, a standing tribute to the woman who had just saved their future. The news spread like wildfire through the building, a legend in the making. The story of the cleaner who became a partner. Anna was moved, but also frightened by the sudden attention. For 4 years, she had hidden in plain sight. Now, she was the center of it all. Anna, this is incredible, Fernanda said, approaching with eyes full of admiration. You deserve every bit of this. You're an inspiration to all of us. Eduardo added with a knowing smile. I always knew there was something special about you, Anna. The way you watched our meetings, how you understood the conversations, it all makes sense now. Carmen, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks, said, Anna, I am so happy for you. I know you're going to revolutionize this company. That same afternoon, Anna moved into an office on the 38th floor, with a breathtaking panoramic view of the city sprawling beneath her. Sitting at her new, elegant desk, she allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt in 4 years: genuine hope. Her phone rang, shattering the quiet. It was Gabriel, calling from the university. Mom, you won't believe what I'm hearing here, he said, his voice buzzing with excitement. Everyone is talking about this incredible story, like an urban legend, about a cleaner who became a partner in a huge company after closing a massive deal. They're saying it's too inspiring to be true, that it sounds like a fairy tale. Anna laughed, a sound that came from her very soul, realizing her story was already becoming legend. Son, she replied, her voice soft and wise, there are things in life that are so extraordinary they seem impossible. But sometimes, Gabriel, they really do happen. Life surprises us in the most unexpected ways. Mom, that story is about you, isn't it? Gabriel asked, a certainty in his voice. Anna looked out her new office window as the sun set over the city, painting the sky in hues of gold and orange. Yes, Gabriel, it's about us, about starting over from the ashes, about never giving up, even when all seems lost. It's about the resilience of the human spirit. After hanging up, Anna allowed herself to cry for the first time in 4 years. Not tears of sadness or pain, but of relief, of gratitude, of a profound liberation. They were the tears of a woman who had finally found her way back home, to herself. Anna Christina Dumont was no longer the invisible cleaner. She was a partner at Aguilar Holdings, one of the most respected international negotiators in the country. And most importantly, she was a woman who had proven that second chances truly exist. 6 months after the meeting that changed everything, Anna was in her office on the 38th floor reviewing contracts for 3 new international projects. Her glass desk was covered in documents in Spanish, English, and French, tangible proof of how Aguilar Holdings had transformed under her leadership. But on this Monday morning, she couldn't fully concentrate. 6 months ago, she arrived at work at 5 a.m., carrying cleaning supplies, invisible to most. Today, she had 3 executive assistants, a salary 20 times larger, and a calendar packed with meetings with multinational CEOs. A soft knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. It was Marcia, her lead executive assistant, a brilliant 28-year-old with a degree in international relations who spoke 4 languages. Anna, 2 more proposals came in this morning, Marcia said, her voice enthusiastic. One from the German group BMW, and another from an Italian conglomerate that wants to invest in renewable energy in Mexico. They're huge opportunities. Marcia placed the folders on the glass desk. And Ricardo would like to speak with you when you have a moment. He said it's important, urgent. Anna smiled, adjusting her glasses with a thoughtful gesture. Tell Ricardo I'm free now, Marcia. And Marcia, could you please reschedule my 3 o'clock meeting? I want to review these proposals with a clear head before making any decisions. I need to analyze every detail with the attention it deserves. Marcia nodded with an understanding smile, recognizing the weight of Anna's request. She slipped out of the office, leaving Anna alone with her thoughts and the new opportunities unfolding before her. Anna reached for the first folder, but paused before opening it, allowing herself a moment of deep reflection. The transformation that had reshaped her world was not merely professional. Her personal life was also unrecognizable, a rebirth in every sense. Gabriel, her son, now in his second year of engineering at UNAM, was flourishing. His talents and confidence grew daily. The company scholarship, an initiative Anna herself had created, had allowed him to dedicate himself completely to his studies, and his grades were among the best in his class, a testament to his dedication and effort. More importantly, Gabriel had regained his faith in himself and in the future. A hope that had once been clouded by hardship now shone with a brilliant intensity. Anna had moved into a spacious apartment in Condesa, one of Mexico City's most vibrant and elegant neighborhoods, with 3 bedrooms and a beautiful view that inspired her each morning. Gabriel had his own study, a space for his academic growth, and Anna had set up a home office, harmoniously blending her professional and personal lives. It was a life she had never dreamed she would have again, a reality that far exceeded her most optimistic expectations, an unexpected gift from fate. Her phone rang again, an international call, a reminder of her growing global influence. Anna Christina Dumont answered, her voice slipping into its professional cadence, every syllable infused with confidence and poise. Anna, Jean-Claude Beaumont here. The French patriarch's cheerful voice came through the line. Monsieur Beaumont, what a pleasant surprise. I'm very well, thank you. How can I help you? Anna replied in perfect, unaccented French. Jean-Claude continued in French, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. He was calling to invite her to a prestigious international conference on Latin American investments to be held in Paris the following month. They wanted her to be the keynote speaker, representing the Mexican market, a clear sign of the global recognition of her expertise. That is a great honor, Monsieur Beaumont, but I need to speak with my partner before I can confirm. Of course. But Anna, may I say something? In the last 6 months, you have become the European market's reference point for investments in Mexico. Your name, Madame Dumont, is respected in the finest business circles in Paris. When she hung up, Anna was lost in thought, struck by the sheer magnitude of her transformation. 6 months ago, her name was associated with scandal and disgrace, with fraud and ruin. Now, apparently, it was synonymous with competence, success, and an unparalleled capability. Life has a peculiar way of coming full circle, of surprising us with its unexpected turns. Ricardo knocked and entered without waiting for a reply, a habit that had become common between them, a reflection of the trust and closeness they had developed. Their professional alliance had evolved into a genuine friendship, built on mutual respect, shared admiration, and an absolute, unbreakable trust that bound them far beyond business. Anna, you look thoughtful. Is there a problem? Ricardo asked, his voice laced with concern as he dropped into the armchair across from her desk, carrying a bulky folder. No problem at all, Ricardo. Jean-Claude Beaumont just called from Paris. He wants me to keynote an international conference on Latin American investments. Anna smiled, the news filling her with pride. Apparently, in the last few months, I've become a reference in the European market. Ricardo let out a hearty laugh that filled the office, a celebration of his partner's success. Anna, you were always a reference. You just needed the chance to prove it again. He opened the folder he'd brought, his expression turning more serious, the look of someone with important news. And speaking of opportunities, Anna, I have a proposal that might interest you enormously. It's something gigantic, something that could change the course of our company forever. Anna leaned forward, curiosity shining in her eyes, her heart beating faster in anticipation. What kind of proposal, Ricardo? She asked, eager to hear the details. A proposal came in from Pemex, Anna, Ricardo said, the name of the state-owned oil giant hanging in the air with significance. They're structuring a joint venture with European companies for deepwater oil exploration. It's a $15 billion project. Ricardo paused dramatically, letting the number land, letting the figure settle in Anna's mind. And they specifically want Aguilar Holdings as their consultant, with you leading the negotiations. Anna felt her heart accelerate, a drumbeat in her ears. $15 billion. It would be the largest project in the history of Ricardo's firm, and potentially one of the largest international consulting contracts ever closed in Mexico. A milestone that would catapult her to the pinnacle of her profession. Ricardo, this is gigantic. Are you sure they're specifically asking for me? They said, and I quote, they want the former director of Michelin, the one who impressed the French and is revolutionizing the Mexican international consulting market. Ricardo smiled. Your reputation has reached Pemex. Anna stood and walked to the window, trying to process the scale of the opportunity, the impact of that one request. 6 months ago, she was cleaning executive washrooms, living a life of invisibility and anonymity. Now, the largest company in the country wanted to hire her for the largest project of the decade, a transformation that surpassed any dream she had ever dared to have. Ricardo, taking on a project of this magnitude means drastically expanding our operation, Anna said, her voice serious as she analyzed the long-term implications. We'll need to hire more consultants, open offices in other cities, maybe even abroad. I know, and I'm ready for it. Ricardo stood up. Anna, when I offered you this partnership, I knew you would transform this company. But even I couldn't have imagined it would be this fast or this big. Anna turned to face him. Ricardo, I need to be honest. A project like this will attract international attention. My past in France, the scandal with Francois, it could all come to light again. Ricardo studied her. Anna, are you afraid? Not afraid, exactly, but concerned. We've built something beautiful here, a solid reputation. I don't want the past to tarnish what we've achieved. Ricardo moved closer and placed a hand on her shoulder, a gesture of support and confidence that calmed her. Anna, you have faced the worst life can throw at you, and you came out stronger. You lost everything and rebuilt an even better career. If anyone tries to use your past against you, they will find you are not the same vulnerable woman you were 4 years ago. Anna felt her confidence return. You're right. And besides, the truth was always on our side. I never did anything wrong. Exactly. And now you have a solid company, an impeccable reputation in Mexico, and powerful friends who support you. Ricardo gestured back to the folder. So, what do you think? Do we accept Pemex's challenge? Anna looked out the window once more, at the city that had welcomed her when she had nothing and was now offering her the greatest opportunity of her career. We accept, but on one condition, which is, I want a portion of the fees from this project to be dedicated to expanding our scholarship program. Yes, we are going to grow, but I want our social responsibility to grow with us. Ricardo smiled, impressed by her generosity. Done. We'll allocate 5% of the net fees to scholarships. They spent the next 2 hours planning the firm's expansion. They discussed the need to hire at least 10 new consultants, open an office in Monterey to be closer to Pemex, and possibly establish a presence in Paris. Anna, there's one more thing, Ricardo said as they were finishing. I received a call from the newspaper, El Universal. They want to do a cover story on you for their business and economics section, from cleaner to executive. The story of the woman who is changing the Mexican international consulting market. Anna hesitated. Ricardo, I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of exposure. Anna, whether you like it or not, you've become a symbol, proof that Mexico has exceptional talent and that second chances truly exist. Ricardo leaned forward. Your story can inspire thousands of people who are going through hard times. Anna thought for a moment. For 4 years, she had hidden, ashamed of the past and afraid of the future. Perhaps it was time to fully embrace who she had become. All right, but I want the article to include information about our scholarship program. If I'm going to be a symbol, let it be a useful one. That afternoon, Anna gave her first interview to a national media outlet in 4 years. The journalist was fascinated by her story. Senora Anna, what advice would you give to people who have lost everything and believe they have no future? Anna chose her words carefully. I would tell them that sometimes we need to hit rock bottom to discover our true strength. That real competence is never lost. It just lies dormant, waiting for the right opportunity, and that second chances do exist, but they usually come disguised as hard work and a great deal of humility. When the interview ended, Anna felt a sense of release. For the first time in years, she had spoken openly about her story, without shame or fear. She had fully owned her journey, with all its falls and victories. At the end of the day, Anna found a photograph Gabriel had given her. It was the two of them on his high school graduation day, just a few months after they had returned from France. They were both thin, tired, but smiling. She placed it next to a more recent photo, taken at the party celebrating her partnership. In it, Gabriel was radiant, confident, and full of plans. The transformation in both of them was undeniable. Anna smiled, put away her documents, and prepared to go home. In the car, she called Gabriel. Son, how was your day at the university? Mom, it was incredible. The international engineering professor was talking about a Mexican executive who's gaining recognition in Europe for infrastructure projects. When he said her name, Anna Dumont, I almost shouted, That's my mother. Anna laughed, her heart swelling with pride and happiness. Gabriel, can I tell you a secret? Today we accepted a $15 billion project with Pemex. It will be the biggest in our history. Gabriel was silent for a moment. Mom, you're incredible. In 6 months, you went from being a cleaner to consulting on multi-billion-dollar projects. That's surreal. Gabriel, none of this would be possible without you. You gave me the strength to keep going when I wanted to give up. You reminded me every day that the future is worth fighting for. When she hung up, Anna was arriving home. The apartment in Condessa was bright, welcoming, filled with the life she had rebuilt brick by brick. Gabriel was in the living room, studying. Mom, how was the day for the most famous new executive in Mexico? Gabriel stood up to hug her. It was a day of big decisions, son. Decisions that will define our future for years to come. They had dinner together, talking about Gabriel's plans, about the possibility of him doing an exchange program in France, about the dreams that were now possible again. Later, Anna sat on her terrace, looking out at the city lights. She thought of Francois, still imprisoned in France, and realized she no longer felt anger or resentment, only indifference, and a gratitude for having found the strength to start over. She thought of all the cleaning staff and the scholarship program that was changing lives. She thought of Ricardo, who had bet on her when she didn't even believe in herself. And she thought of the future stretching out before her, filled with possibilities that had seemed impossible just 6 months ago. The broken Anna Christina Dumont, who had returned from France 4 years earlier, was gone. She was not the invisible cleaner. She was a respected executive, a prosperous partner, a proud mother, and a woman who had proven that life always offers a second chance to those who have the courage to take it. 1 year after the meeting that changed everything, Anna stood on the main stage of a convention center in Mexico City, facing an audience of hundreds of entrepreneurs and investors. It was the National Congress of International Business, and she had been invited as the keynote speaker to talk about professional reinvention and excellence in international consulting. But today was not just another conference. It was the day she would receive the Executive of the Year award, bestowed by the Mexican Association of Executives for the exceptional work she had done at Aguilar Holdings and its impact on the Mexican market. Anna adjusted the microphone and looked out at the audience. In the front row, Gabriel was smiling with pride. Beside him sat Ricardo, who had become much more than a partner. Carmen, Eduardo, and Fernanda were also there, representing the team that had grown from 15 to 120 employees in the last year. Her voice was firm. Exactly 18 months ago, I was working as a cleaner in a corporate building in downtown Mexico City. I would arrive at 5 in the morning, clean offices, empty trash cans, and try to be invisible. Not because I was ashamed of the work, but because I was ashamed of who I thought I had become. A murmur swept through the audience. Today, 18 months later, our firm had closed international contracts worth $3.2 billion. We have created 250 direct jobs. We have established partnerships with 15 countries, and our scholarship program has already benefited more than 800 families. The audience erupted in applause, but Anna raised a hand, asking for silence. But I am not here to talk about numbers. I am here to talk about something far more important, about second chances, about the dignity of work, and about how Mexico wastes talent every single day simply because we do not know how to look beyond appearances. Anna paused, letting her words sink in. For 4 years, I was just a statistic, a deportee who returned to her country with nothing, a middle-aged woman competing for jobs with people much younger than her, a highly qualified professional that the market had discarded because of her association with a scandal. Her voice grew more intense. How many of you employ people in cleaning, security, or maintenance who were once professors, engineers, or administrators? people whom life has forced to take whatever work they can find? A profound silence fell over the auditorium. Anna saw people glancing at one another, reflecting. I was lucky, she thought. So very lucky. I was in the right place at the right time when a crisis forced my boss to see who I truly was. Anna looked directly at Marcos. But how much exceptional talent lies hidden within our own offices, waiting for a single opportunity to prove its worth? Anna then shared her entire story, her career in France, the scandal that was not of her making, the return to Mexico, the years spent cleaning, and finally, the opportunity that changed everything. She spoke of the fear, the shame, the feeling of worthlessness, but also of resilience, hope, and the importance of never completely giving up. The most important lesson I learned, Anna said, concluding her speech, is that true competence is never lost. It may lie dormant, hidden, or underutilized, but it is always there, waiting for the chance to reemerge, and sometimes, to find that chance, we must be willing to start from zero, to work hard, and to keep our dignity intact, no matter what we are doing. The audience rose to its feet in a 5-minute standing ovation. Anna saw tears in the eyes of many emotional executives, young professionals scribbling notes. Later, during the awards ceremony, Anna took the stage again to receive the trophy for Executive of the Year. The president of the Mexican Executives Association read a citation that made her blush. Ana Cristina Dumont represents the very best of Mexican enterprise, exceptional technical skill, international strategic vision, genuine social responsibility, and an extraordinary ability to transform adversity into opportunity. In 18 months, she has not only rebuilt her own career, but has revolutionized the Mexican market for international consulting and inspired thousands of professionals across the country. As Anna held the heavy, elegant trophy, she felt she was holding more than just a professional award. She was holding tangible proof that life truly offers second chances to those who have the courage to take them. At the cocktail reception, after the ceremony, Anna was approached by dozens of people, executives seeking partnerships, young professionals asking for advice, journalists wanting interviews. But the conversations that touched her most were with employees from various sectors who came to share their own stories of starting over. Senora Ana, said a woman in her 50s, I'm the human resources manager for a multinational. After hearing your speech, I'm going to overhaul our hiring processes. How much talent are we losing because of our own prejudices? A young executive approached her. Anna, my father is a doorman in a commercial building, but he's a trained accountant. He hasn't been able to find a job in his field for 10 years. Your story made me realize that perhaps I can help him in a different way. This was exactly the impact Anna had hoped to make. Later that night, Anna, Gabriel, and Marcos celebrated with dinner at an elegant restaurant. The conversation flowed between future plans, memories of the past few months, and reflections on how everything had changed. Mom, Gabriel said during dessert, I realized something today. You haven't just rebuilt your career. You've become an even better person than you were before everything fell apart. Anna looked at her son, surprised. Why do you say that? Because in France, you were competent and successful, but maybe a little detached from the reality of people who struggle to survive. Now, you are competent, successful, and deeply connected to the struggles of everyday people. Gabriel paused. You use your success to help others. That's so much more powerful. Marcos nodded. Gabriel is right. Anna, you've become not just an exceptional executive, but a leader who truly understands social responsibility. Anna felt her eyes well up with tears of gratitude. You two are the reason I made it this far. Gabriel, you gave me purpose in my darkest moments. Marcos, you gave me a chance when no one else would. And you, Marcos replied, transformed that chance into something far greater than I ever imagined possible. 2 months later, Anna was in Paris, in the office of Beaumont and Associés, signing a contract to establish a permanent joint venture between the two firms. Aguilar Holdings would open an office in Paris, and Beaumont would establish permanent operations in Mexico. Jean-Claude Beaumont, now 71, watched the signing with evident satisfaction. Anna, when we met you 2 years ago, we knew we were in the presence of someone special, but we never could have imagined you would become one of the most respected executives in Latin America. Monsieur Beaumont, much of this was only possible because of the trust you placed in me from the very beginning. Felipe Beaumont added, Anna, in 2 years, you have proven that Mexico has some of the best business talent in the world. We are eager to expand our investments in the country. When Anna left the Beaumont office, she walked through the streets of Paris, where she had lived for 12 years. It was strange to be back, but not as the broken refugee who had fled 4 years earlier. She was returning as a respected executive, closing international deals, representing Mexico at the highest corporate levels. She passed the building where she had lived with Francois, now occupied by others. She felt a pang of nostalgia, but not of sadness. It was nostalgia for the young, ambitious person she had been, but also gratitude for the wiser, stronger woman she had become. That night, in her hotel, Anna received an unexpected call. It was Francois, calling from prison. Anna, I saw the news about you. I'm impressed with what you've achieved. Anna took a deep breath. Francois, what do you want? I want to apologize for everything, for destroying our life, for putting you and Gabriel in an impossible situation. His voice sounded genuinely remorseful. And I want you to know that I'm proud of how you rebuilt everything. Anna was silent for a moment. For 4 years, she had waited for this apology. Now that it had arrived, she realized she no longer needed it. Francois, I accept your apology, but our life together ended a long time ago. I hope you find your own way when you get out of prison. Anna, can I ask one thing? Are you happy now? Anna looked out the hotel window at the lights of Paris sparkling in the night. I am happier now than I have ever been, Francois. I discovered I am much stronger than I ever imagined. When she hung up, Anna felt a profound sense of release from the past. Francois was just a memory now, a lesson learned, a chapter closed. On the flight back to Mexico, Anna reviewed the documents for the new contract and planned the next steps for their international expansion. Aguilar Holdings was becoming a leading consulting firm in Latin America, with offices in Mexico and France, and plans to open operations in Colombia and Argentina. But more important than business growth, Anna knew she had found her true purpose: to use her success to create opportunities for others, to break down prejudices about professional worth, and to prove that second chances truly exist. When the plane landed in Mexico City, Gabriel was waiting at the airport with a bouquet of flowers and a smile that lit up the entire terminal. Mom, welcome back to your real home. Anna hugged her son, feeling that she had finally found not just professional success, but inner peace. She had gone from an invisible cleaner to a respected international executive. But more importantly, she had become a living example that life always offers a second chance to those with the courage to take it. Anna Christina Dumont was no longer the woman who had lost everything in France. She was the woman who had rebuilt everything in Mexico and who was now ready to conquer the world. But this time, it would be on her own terms, with her own strength, and with the wisdom that only comes from having hit rock bottom and found the will to rise again. The journey back to the top was complete, and the future, for the first time in years, seemed infinitely promising.